Hello and welcome to another video, and I will be 110% honest, I was not planning on making any video today. I was actually planning on sitting down this evening and playing Mortal Kombat 1 on my PS5, and holy shit, a lot of stuff just happened with Xbox, and enough that I felt like I needed to make a video. I didn't want to hold my thoughts until the next episode of the podcast. By the way, please go listen to podcast 572 if you haven't already. I would very much appreciate that. But a ton of shit just leaked thanks to the FTC and Microsoft trial about Activision a couple months ago. And we have a real eye-opening look at the innards of Microsoft, specifically the Xbox division, their plans for the next decade pretty much is in these documents, as well as some more interesting things like how Game Pass deals work and how they approach that. It's devastating, but also at the same time, it's not as devastating as I think a lot of people are making it out to be. I did hold off on making this video a little bit because I wanted to have the Microsoft response. I figured at some point someone will say something about this, and Phil Spencer did make a comment, so we'll address that as well. But let's just go ahead, let's dive in, and let's talk about everything that happened with this gigantic leak today. So I have this article up on IGN.com. It's just kind of a wrap up all the major revelations from the FTC versus Xbox court document leaks. And there's quite a bit of things that have happened. The first one, which kind of leaked last night before we realized that, hey, this is a big part of like what's happening here. The Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be an Xbox console exclusive. Yes, that's right. This game will be console exclusive to the Xbox. It really should come to no one's surprise. I've kind of predicted it for a while, and I think they were kind of waiting, obviously, on the success of Starfield to see if they were going to pull the trigger on this. But let's be fair, this was always the plan. You don't buy a studio like Bethesda to not lock shit down for your own console, for your own ecosystem, and that's exactly what Microsoft's doing. And again, remember, all Microsoft games and everything they own is always on Steam, so the PC fans of this franchise will still be able to play on Steam just fine. It doesn't affect them. This specifically will affect PlayStation-only gamers. Another more interesting part of this, Activision was briefed on Switch successor late last year. I thought this was interesting. So Activision was actually briefed on whatever the next Switch is late last year, which again shouldn't really come to anyone's surprise. Like, these companies are going to know about new systems well before the general public does. I want to share these because this is perhaps the most interesting aspect of this entire thing. They actually leaked what the mid-generation refresh is for Microsoft, be it the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S, as well as a controller update, which is interesting. But I want to talk about this because there's some very interesting aspects of this that I think a lot of people are not covering or not explaining very well. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make a video, is there's a lot of people that are glossing over certain things that, I'll be honest, I don't think should be glossed over. So let's go ahead and let's dive into this part of it. Here it is. This supposed picture is your Xbox Series X mid-gen refresh. First thing you're going to notice right off the bat is that this thing has no disk drive. This thing is diskless, just like the Series S. They are making the most powerful Xbox ever, now adorably all digital. This is codenamed Brooklyn. Brooklyn will deliver 4K Gen 9 console gaming with more internal storage, faster Wi-Fi, reduced power, a more immersive controller, more on that in a moment, and a beautiful redesign that elevates all digital experience of the Xbox ecosystem. There's a beautiful and innovative new design, more internal storage for games, so this thing will have a 2TB SSD, very awesome. USB-C front port with power delivery, They really should have had this on the Series X. I think it's weird because even the PS5 has a dedicated USB-C port on the front of the console. The all-new, more immersive controller, and it's going to retail at $500, so it's the same price. Updated technology, all-new Southbridge to modernize I/O and sustainability efforts. Wi-Fi 6E radio for better throughput, latency, and interface mitigation. Bluetooth 5.2 radio for improved accessory experiences. And I can't even, what is it? 6 enemy die shrink for improved efficiency. As far as sustainability, they've reduced the power supply power by 15%. New low power standby mode is 20% of current X and S standby mode. Increased use of PCR on housing to 30 less than, is that? Greater than 30%, I think. And 100% recyclable packaging. The biggest thing that I want to point out here about this redesign is that it's a redesign. So when we think about mid-generation refreshes of consoles, this isn't what that is. And it's been put out there, this thing is going to have the same 16 terabytes of, and in fact, I'll bring it up here because it's put out here. So the information is right here. It's going to have the same 12 teraflops, 16 gigabytes of RAM. 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte option. It's all pretty much identical, with the one thing being it's going to have that USB-C port on the front. It's going to not have a disk drive, and it's going to have a better Wi-Fi card in it. That's it. They are also, which I'll bring it up here as well, they are also redesigning the Series S, although I'll be honest, when you look at it, it looks like pretty much identical, with the one noticeable change being the USB-C port on the front of it. But it has the same kind of updates, and it's going to be a terabyte as well. So, and that's the biggest thing that I want to point out here. Everybody's been flipping out, and I think rightfully so, about the idea of mid-generation refreshes of these consoles this generation, because let's be honest, we haven't even tapped into the power and the potential of these systems yet. How many games can you name, even on one hand? How many games can you name first party that really seem like they took advantage of the PS5 or the Series X and the power that they offer? It's very minimal. Most of these games have come out as cross-gen games that were then ported upwards to play better. Obviously, they're going to play at a higher frame rate and stuff like that. I mean, even looking at something like Starfield, which I'm currently playing through, I'm loving every minute of it. You can tell it's a game that started development on the Xbox One platform. It was ported upwards. Now, is it a game that I think could work on an Xbox One system? No. And I think the biggest reason for that simply is because of the SSD. I think the SSD makes that game so much more playable because of how fast everything loads. I mean, let's be honest, if it was still on a mechanical drive, you'd be sitting through a lot of load screens in that game that really aren't a thing because of the SSD. So, but again, even then, we've barely tapped into these systems. In terms of raw power, in terms of exclusive games only coming out for the Series X or the PS5. And so this kind of refresh makes me more excited, because I look at it first and I go, okay, nope, I can be good with Xbox until 20, but I also have a prediction, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Let's talk about the controller. So there's a new controller, codenamed Sebel, I think that's how you say it. And I'll agree. The world's best controller now playing on a screen near you. I love the Xbox controller. I think it is overall my favorite controller on the market right now. I do like the DualSense, but if you put both controllers in my hands, 9 out of 10 times I'm gonna pick that Xbox controller. The only times that it's different for me is if it's a fighting game, or because I love the PlayStation D-pad, or if it's a Dark Souls type game, because I enjoy that type of game more with a PlayStation controller. With that being said, this controller is looking awesome. Play Anywhere Xbox Wireless 2 direct to cloud. So that kind of is going to get into something we're going to talk about a little bit later in the video. Bluetooth 5.2, new mobile app features. They're going to show you how to pair your different devices in the cloud. Immersion. So here's the biggest thing that this thing is doing. They are putting in precision haptic feedback, much like the DualSense. It's not surprising. Like, come on. You knew it was going to happen. The VACA haptics double as speakers. It has an accelerometer. Quieter buttons and thumbsticks. It's kind of interesting. Here's a very interesting part of it. Rechargeable and swappable battery. That's fucking awesome. Very into that. Recycled materials and less resin. Also awesome. Repair and disassembly. That is one thing that is really, really cool. Let's continue though. New modular thumbsticks, improved longevity, continued build improvements. Brief side note, Microsoft recently made it much more consumer friendly to repair controllers by offering all the different pieces of a controller if you contact their support, which is a very pro-consumer move, and I hope they continue stuff like this in the future. Continuing on with this, obviously with the article here, despite Phil Spencer said multiple times there's no need for a mid-generation refresh of the Xbox Series game consoles, it does show in these documents that Microsoft is planning to launch hardware refreshes for both systems next year. Here's the thing that is important. August 2024 is the release date for Elwood, which is the codename for the new version of the Series S, and October of next year is the release of Brooklyn, which is the Series X refresh. They want to give a 2-month release gap in order to give Elwood a moment to shine before Brooklyn comes the more sought after console ahead of the holiday 2024 season. Again, as we discuss it, this isn't really a mid-generation refresh. This is more of a just redesign. The only and biggest downfall of it for me is we are taking out the ability to play discs, which I have a problem with it when it's a mid-generation thing, because you already started the generation telling me, okay, physical media is still here, and now in the middle of the generation you're saying, we're thinking about ditching that. It just doesn't work yet. Like, if now when we get to the next Xbox and the next PlayStation in 2028, which is realistically the timeline we're on right now for when we're going to see brand new systems in a new generation 10, that is at the time when we will see, in my opinion, all digital. Like, you're not going to be able to play anything physical anymore, which is an extreme bummer. I think you should at least continue to give the consumer that option. I'm hoping, much like the PlayStation 5 Pro rumors, I'm hoping Microsoft has something to offer in terms of a disk drive, but I'm not seeing it happen. And at the same time, if this system is just a digital Xbox Series X with more storage and a little bit better of a Wi-Fi card, I don't need to purchase it. Like, I own 2 Xbox Series X systems between myself and my girlfriend, and they're both hardwired, so I don't worry about the network, wireless capabilities in the system. It's not for me. That controller, though, looks fantastic. I cannot wait to see that. So, moving on in the leaked documents, Fallout 3 and The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion are getting remastered. So one of the things, and this was a leaked document for 2021, is that there are remasters of both of these games currently being worked on. It's crazy because for Oblivion, I look at specifically that team that is working on the Sky Oblivion mod for Skyrim, where they're remaking the entirety of Oblivion in Skyrim, and I think to myself, how have they not gotten a cease and desist yet if Oblivion is actually being remade? So I don't know. This is the one where I look at it and go, maybe they were thinking about this and they dodged it. I don't know. Well, time will find out. To no one's surprise, Xbox is planning to release a next-gen system in 2028. Mid-generation console refreshes for the Series X and S launching next year are not the only hardware ambitions Microsoft has, as the tech giant is planning to launch a next-generation Xbox console in 2028. This kind of lines up with what we've been seeing for a while. The thing that bothers me about this is mentions the system will be a next generation hybrid game platform. More interestingly, the document mentions a thin OS for a sub 99 consumer or handheld devices, implying that Microsoft may release a handheld device dedicated to cloud games, kind of like Sony is with that very awful looking PlayStation Portal. This is weird. It's kind of wild because let's be honest here. Like they have mentioned that this is going to be a cloud hybrid console. Maybe in 2028 we're going to get to a point here where this will be the norm. But right now, cloud technology is still not where it should be. I mean, look, I have a very good internet connection. I have to because I work from home, and I've tried cloud on both systems, the PlayStation, the Xbox. I've tried it on my phone through the Xbox Cloud streaming through Game Pass. It's not there yet. Like it's not there, and I have a very good fucking connection. It works okay to passable for 2D games. The minute you play something very intensive, I tried Yakuza Like a Dragon. It was not very playable at all and very, very ridden with latency. So we're not there yet in 2023. Maybe we will be in 2028, but I just don't see it. Probably the one that's been getting the most flack today. Phil Spencer really wanted to buy Nintendo. And he kind of mentioned that in some documents about really trying to purchase Nintendo and seeing that as a career-defining moment for him. I've seen a lot of YouTubers, a lot of outlets kind of pulling this one apart and making it a big deal. And I just want to set the record straight on it because let's be honest and let's be fair here. All of these companies, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, they're all in business to fucking make money. And they all want to be number one. So they're gonna say shit like this behind closed doors. Look, these documents were never meant to see the public eye. So, of course, they want to buy one of their competitors out and make it part of the Microsoft brand. This shouldn't shock anyone. I don't think this is like a horrible thing that somebody said, but a lot of people are making it out to be. Is just competition. Finally, some of the other things that were put out there. There were some leaked emails between Sarah Bond that kind of went out where she was contacting different people from different companies, including WB. They were really scrambling during the 2022 holiday season. So last holiday when Starfield got delayed, they needed stuff. One of the biggest things apparently they tried to do was pay for day and date Game Pass. Not exclusivity, but Game Pass rights to have Gotham Knights. They also pushed to have Assassin's Creed Rift, and some other stuff, but obviously it fell apart. I just thought that part of this was very, very interesting. And that's probably the most damning thing about this entire leak is like it kind of lifted the veil and shows a little bit about how they wheel and deal their business when it comes to Game Pass. I mean, I think it said here that they offered $55 million for Gotham Knights. And again, they're not buying Gotham rights as an exclusive just to put it on Game Pass day and date for whatever amount of time that they are negotiating. The last couple things here, Red Dead Redemption 2 might get a next gen update. This was one thing that was mentioned, that Red Dead Redemption 2 D&D for Gen 9, indicating Microsoft expected Rockstar Games' critically acclaimed 2018 Western game would release on 9th generation consoles sometime during the second quarter of 2022 fiscal year, October to December 2022 for context. Obviously, this did not happen. And then the final thing I'll say here is that the FTC is blaming Microsoft for the leaks. I think that's kind of fucking ridiculous because let's be fair, like Microsoft had to put these documents up for this trial. They were never meant to see the light of day. I think the FTC is definitely at fault here. But, you know, they're going to get around it. They're going to get ahead of it. Oh, really quickly here, I wanted to share what Phil Spencer. So this all leaked this morning. It's been the talk of the news all fucking day. And Phil Spencer came out and he basically just had this to say about it. I think it kind of sums it up perfectly. Specifically, we've seen the conversation around old emails and documents. It is hard to see our team's work shared this way because so much has changed and there's so much to be excited about right now and in the future. We will share the real plans when we are ready. Basically, it's just kind of throwing water on it and saying, look, man, like these were a lot of stuff that we were talking about as a company the last couple of years, but these plans have changed and plans always change. So it's a very interesting like veil lift to see how Microsoft does business in the Xbox division. I don't find that it's going to be extremely damning to the company, honestly. Like a lot of people are like doom and gloom, like, oh man, they're fucking ruined. No, I don't think so. I think there's a few things that are a little damning, like, you know, kind of understanding how they wheel and deal with Game Pass. That's kind of a big deal. But other parts of it, like, oh no, we know maybe like 2 months early about these digital mid-gen refreshes. Let's be fair. We were probably going to know about them at the Game Awards. That's my guess. So it's not really that huge of a deal. So that's where we get into the speculation territory. And the thing I've been thinking about the most today with this whole ordeal, which is Sony, who has had these rumors for a while that they're putting out a PlayStation 5 Pro next fall, that they are going to have this extremely overpowered system that somehow is more powerful than the Xbox Series X and the current PS5. And it's going to do all this stuff. And we've heard all these rumors and everything. It's going to have a detachable disk drive, you know, all of this crazy shit, you know, even hearing rumors of like, it's going to be a $700 console and blah, blah, blah. Like we've heard all this shit. And that leads me to believe that there is in no fucking way possible, if that is true, that Microsoft doesn't have an answer to that. And I think that either it's one of two things. Either the PlayStation 5 Pro rumor is just a digital refresh to the PS5, which already exists. So maybe it's just a remodel where, you know, hopefully the system doesn't look like the ugliest thing on the goddamn planet, because it does right now. But I don't think either. It's one of two things. The PlayStation 5 Pro is not really what you think it is. It's just a refresh, or Microsoft has another console that is hidden in these documents we did not see. It was not a part of this, and they are waiting, kind of like they did with the One X, where they're going to wait an additional year and put it out in 2025. And I can totally see something like that happening. They can give Sony a year runway with a PS5 Pro, but let's be fair. And this is the point I would make. Okay? You pretty much, as Microsoft, just acquired Call of Duty, okay? You are not going to acquire the biggest game in the world, bar none, maybe Fortnite, I guess, that, and have it then run on your direct competition's new box better than your box. They're not going to do that. There's no fucking way. So what I think will happen, and this is my prediction, is if the PS5 Pro is true, and that does come out next year, I think there is another series system that we don't know about yet that they are working on behind the scenes that will launch in fall 2025. Now, again, will that system have a disc drive? I don't fucking know. I hope so, because I'm a fan of physical media. I just bought in the last 2 weeks, I just bought 2 new 4K Blu-rays, okay? I bought Batman Mask of the Phantasm, and I just bought today The Exorcist 50th anniversary 4K Blu-ray. I still buy 4K Blu-rays every once in a while. I don't have a 4K Blu-ray player, but I have a PS5 and 2 Series X systems, so those play those discs right now. But, you know, what's going to happen when we get rid of that? Exactly. So I'm a fan of physical media. I still buy a majority of my games physically when it makes sense. So Yeah, I don't know. That whole part of it is what scares me. But if I want to wrap this up as quickly as possible here, and I know this is probably a longer video than I anticipated, but there was a lot to cover, let's be fair. I don't think this is as damning as a lot of people are making it out to be. I think Microsoft is going to be just fine. I think Phil Spencer's response is perfectly acceptable because it's true. This is stuff that plans have changed. Plans always change. And you might be seeing part of the story, but you're not seeing the full story. And, basically just wait until they're ready to share whatever the real plans are, whatever it actually becomes. So I'm curious to know in the comments below, what do you think about these leaks? What is your opinion? What are your thoughts? I will be having a great discussion on the next episode of Podcast 572, which again, I will remind you to listen to. And as always, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.